I just thought it'd be great to have a little conversation about your businesses, just kind of frame what we go on to talk about how you've gone through the pandemic ultimately. So, Catherine, are you happy to share sort of the types of customers that you look after?
Yeah, of course. Predominantly, we deal with a lot of engineering and oil companies. It seems to have just gone into that wave. I don't know how we landed an oil account very early on in our business, and it kind of just stemmed from there that we seem to magnetize oil companies. So we deal with a lot of contractors, engineers, technicians, IT, telecommunications, very hands-on businesses whose staff need to go out to work on jobs. So not so much on the sales aspect. So it's extremely last minute, extremely changeable. Very, very global, very obscure places. And also you deal with a lot of travellers who live in lots of obscure places. So they're not all necessarily UK based or European based. They might live in really weird parts of the world, and you've got to get them to really weird parts of the world. So it makes quite an interesting working day sometimes, and very demanding, like all our businesses. But yeah, it just seems to be that sort of sectors that we seem to attract, which is good because it gives you really good experience in how those businesses work and what their needs are, and the types of ways they have to work, and it's really understanding how that business operates and the finite detail of that. So you get to know them and the travellers and the businesses really, really well, so you can really act on stuff very quickly, and that makes it even easier for them, really. So
you're very much part of their team.
Yeah, you are. And it is very much, it's like some ways you're a bit of a blind implant, because you are as much of their business as anybody else in their business. And a number of clients have said, it's like you're a member of staff, and that's how it should be, because you're organising probably one of the most important aspects of their job, apart from the hands-on physical thing. So they rely on you over 100% for everything to be right. So yeah, it's really important, but it's a really good, nice variation. Got some lovely clients. Pretty much on the whole, all of them brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic.
So yeah, it's good.
Brilliant.
All good.
And Nick,
My client base is not engineering. My client base is a little bit different in the sense of it's much more white glove. It's high touch. So my client base is social media. I've got ex-Olympians. I've got Italian royalty. I've got a little bit of everything that falls under my sort of portfolio at the moment. And as I say, it becomes very high touch. So as Catherine said, we become part of that team. We really do sort of become, one of my main travellers, he's got 4 personal assistants. And, I deal with every single one of them on a daily basis, which I'm not sure is a good thing or a bad thing. We're going to leave that one to try and figure that one out. But it's very, very much high touch. And it really is one of those things where, I am just part of that family and I integrate into what they do.
Yeah, amazing. I I obviously speak to you guys quite regularly and out with our community, and I think it's wonderful to hear the relationships and stories that you have. So I think it's clear that you've been in the travel game for a while. We won't tally the years, including your husband. That's like a lot in your office from home, right? And one of the beauties is that we've all been working from home for 27 years. So that bit we were okay with, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to spend some time reflecting on the moment. Let's cast our mind back. Bear in mind you joined us in December 2019, Nick. Personally and professionally, I guess, where were you when the realisation happened that this was maybe going to be a little bit different? I definitely know where I was. I was actually in a previous role. I'd walked into the office and I was like, oh, there's a lot of people running around. This thing's different. And then I said, survived the first couple of days in the office. And I said to colleagues I've worked with for like 10 years, see you in a couple of weeks. And off we went. And I literally saw them here 2 years later. And I'm in a different job. And from that side, the rest is history. So I think that was certainly I was like, this thing will pass, right? Ignorantly, fine.
Yeah.
But I just wondered where you were when that sort of moment, you've been in the travel game a long time. We're used to disruption, we used to think, but where were you when that happened? And then we'll talk about how that's then played out over the last, almost 2 years.
For me, it was, as you say, we're home-based, so the whole moving out of an office wasn't really an upheaval for us. For me, I just noticed there was more people in my house. So it was business as normal as far as most things were going. I just had a 6-year-old in the bedroom next to me. I had a 7-year-old in the bedroom on that side of me, and my wife was working in the bedroom behind me. And in between phone calls and trying to book flights or trying to fix flights, I think it's probably more appropriate, I was also being IT for homeschooling and all the fun things that came on with it. We can all appreciate that, can't we? So for me, as far as the big disruption of travel, it slowed down. But from the moment the pandemic started, I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
It's been really fortunate.
And Catherine?
Well, we kind of noticed, things changing in January, February time.
Yeah.
We had a lot of clients out in Asia, China, Far East, that kind of thing. And there was the murmurings out there. And, we were having to, people were saying, oh, I think I better get home and I better come back and this, that and the other. And so we noticed it quite early on before it sort of hit the UK in March. And February wasn't a great month for us because people were already beginning to panic in our industries that we deal with. And then, when it sort of like really the realization started hitting in, I had one of my very good clients who happens to be in oil and has been for many years. He's very frank and to the point. And he phoned me and he said, Kath, the planes are going to stop. There's not going to be any planes in the air. BA is going to ground all their planes. I said, don't be stupid. What planet are you on? I was like, that's never going to happen. If that happens, I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to be able to feed the kids and everything else. It's going to be disastrous. And he's like, no, honestly, there's going to be riots. There's going to be food shortages. The world's going to go to pot. You've watched The Walking Dead, haven't you? And I said, yeah. He's like, yeah, just get yourself prepared. And I started panicking. I honestly started panicking. Yeah, and I was like thinking, my God, okay, he can't be right. He can't be right. And then he phoned me a couple of weeks later, right? We were on the beach with the kids. This was at the weekend. He said, I bought myself a crossbow. I've stocked up on everything. The shed, the garage, or whatever, is full of rice, pasta. You need to get sorted, Kath. You need to get sorted. And I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. He's like, no, this is for real. I've seen this kind of thing. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I'm just like, oh my God. I came off the phone and I said to my husband, right, I'm gonna make a list. We need to go and get supplies. I even bought myself an axe. My husband went mental. I went to the garden centre, and everyone was panicking in that week or so before lockdown, getting garden supplies because they were like, well, I know I'm going to have loads of time. I'll do loads. So we were getting loads of garden supplies. And I came back from InXS and I had an axe in the car. My husband said, what the hell are you doing? I was like, well, you never know. And we had like one of those, these double buggies for the kids to go on the toes or back of bikes. We had one of those. We were going to get rid of it because our kids had sort of outgrown it. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep it. Because what if, you have to board your house up.
Oh, my goodness.
And you have to, get transportation to try and find food and stuff, like in The Walking Dead. And I was thinking, no, we're keeping it. I'm keeping the pushchair. The loft was rammed full of food.
Goodness.
I kept everything I was thinking of getting rid of. I was like, no, we're keeping everything.
Amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But
that's how I felt at the time. And I was like, oh my God,
well,
oh my God.
It wasn't quite that bad.
It wasn't quite that bad. Chopping the wood, because we do have a wood burner. So it had a double use, I don't want people that I was going mad that I was going to chop people's heads off. But, I just had these visions and I was thinking of stupid things like I was thinking, okay, if somebody attacks the house, we'll all get up in the loft. I've got loads of food up there.
Brilliant.
It's stupid though, isn't it?
Stupid, but yeah, look,
yeah.
It's affected all of us.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
And I think, there was this moment for everybody, as obviously we've gone through it, but we felt it as an industry. Things changed. We had, as Nick alluded to, some of the perception is definitely that the world just did stop, and yes, it has to some extent. But actually, a lot of us who are in the industry have kept the world moving, right? And I know, despite having two very different businesses in terms of who you support, that has really ultimately been what the last 18 months has been for you. So I thought, Nick, it would be great if you could sort of start to share really how you, from that, the initial hopefully you didn't board yourself up in the loft.
No.
You were quite calm about it. You sort of then took on that challenge and how you've then supported your clients and gone through that process with them, and got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, when everything sort of started to change, the big thing for me, I had clients in Antigua at the time. They went for a 2-week holiday before they were heading out to the US, and they were in Antigua for 3 months. It's terrible, isn't it? I know it sounds
Oh my God,
hideous.
I'm so jealous.
But I had to support them,
Yeah.
continue to make sure that all their room bills were paid, make sure that everything was
Yeah.
taken care of, and figure out a way to get them off an island that was
Yeah.
slowly closing.
Yeah.
And the hotel just basically said to me, while we've got guests, we will stay open. And until the guests leave, we will stay open. So
Wow.
for me, it became very much of, I'm not going to say we went into survival mode in any way, shape or form. It wasn't that dramatic.
Thanks, Nick.
Some of us did. We just carried on the best we could under the circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think really what I did is I really went back to my roots. I really went back to being that subject matter expert, and being there for my clients and being there to help and advise the best I could. And looking back, I mean, if I sort of look back of the summer after everything kicked in, I'm really sort of proud to say that not one of my clients was left stranded or lost money because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we really worked hard to make sure that anything that was pre-booked or booked was cancelled free of charge, and everything was put back right for them. But my main role was in that reassurance, I think. So we really did sort of take that personal aspect, and really reassure the PAs, the travellers themselves, and make sure that they had everything they needed if they were travelling. And if they did want to travel, then we had to add those extra steps.
Yeah.
So, originally it was, do you have your passport? Do you have a visa? Can you travel to that country? Is there a plane going? Is there going to be a hotel open? It just became a little bit more in depth on what we had to do for our travellers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Catherine,
Yeah.
anyone in Antigua for 3 months?
No, I didn't have anyone in Antigua, but I had to still. Some of my clients were like, "Well, we need to carry on." Some of the oil industry. They were like, "Well, if we don't get our guys out, we will lose our contract, and our contract is like a 2-3 year contract."
Yeah.
So to them and that company, it was a big, huge deal. And we had crew changes to still try and work out how to get people to places, and we had Russians that had to get to Norway, and they were having to do a border run over the Murmansk to Kokine border from Russia into Norway because there was no other way of getting them there. We had to charter private jets to come from Russia to Biggin Hill to pick up UK people and then up to Norway, and it was crazy times. And it sounds glamorous, and it was not glamorous at all. It was totally stressful for the client, the travellers, and us. But you had to really, thinking outside the box was just low level. It was way more than that. And as Nick said, you just have to think of so many different new aspects that you hadn't even thought of before in travel. Prior, it was your flight, your hotel, your visa, passport, check. But this was like something else. And to start with, you didn't know whether you're coming or going because you were trying to find out restrictions and entry requirements and things like that. And countries hadn't got themselves together yet.
Yeah.
There was nothing really there. You were trying to sort of like go on a whim and hope that things would be okay. You were trying to phone embassies, and embassies would tell you one thing, and then immigration on the border would tell you something else. And it was trying to find that balance to give your clients a reassurance and also to say, yeah, you'll be fine, just gotta go. I mean, a lot of my clients even now were like, well, yeah, we'll just risk it, because you have to kind of go with it a bit, otherwise your business starts to collapse. Their business starts to collapse.
Absolutely. You've got you've enabled them ultimately to survive it as a business model, or go and partner with them through that pain. And what you've just described there was right at the front end of this, right? So it's new for you, it's new for them, it's new for all of us. As you're going through that, and what have you learned as a industry professional back then? How what's that been that biggest learning for you?
I stopped relying on what I know, and I started going back to facts. So I stopped looking at, I think the entry requirements are, and what I started doing was, people used to say to me, what do I need to do to get into? I say, I don't know. Because at that point, I didn't. And until someone asked me the question, I'd then go and research it. Because things were changing so quickly, there was no point saying, well, last week you needed this, because this week, you know, you didn't, you know, and it was very, very different. And it was the little things where, you know, I've got, sort of, as we talk present day, I've got travellers that are vaccinated and not vaccinated. And even that, trying to put them on the same trip is completely different.
Okay.
You know, it makes it very, very difficult for us. So it's, again, you have to research twice. Well, what do you have to do if you're vaccinated? What do you have to do if you're not vaccinated? You know, so for me, I really went back to, you know, not being the font of all knowledge and sort of sitting there going, I know everything, to let me find out for you.
Yeah.
Let me make sure this is correct before I tell you, I think, but let me just reconfirm. And that's kind of where I think the TC community really comes in. I've got, you know, I've got multiple WhatsApp groups with multiple bunches of TCs. And daily we ask that question. What do you need for that? Do you read the rules the same as I do? I'm sending a client too. Is that how you understand that?
Yeah.
Where are you finding your information? You know, things like that. So I stopped being that font of all knowledge. As I said, I've been in travel quite a while. I understand most elements. I used to be an ops director. So you had to know everything really. But nowadays, I go back to
the basics.
Give me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google it for you, and then I'll come back to you.
Exactly.
No, exactly.
And it's being sure in what you're giving them as well. And even though, I don't know about you, but I always say, you read it as well, and you be sure that you know what you need to do. But I think this is what you need to do, because, you know, you don't want them to fall unstuck somewhere, but at the same time, it's not black and white. No, it's not clear. And, you know, each country varies, and each country where you're getting the information from varies, and the way they word it varies. And so, it's like going back to school almost, really, isn't it? Like you know exactly what you do in your job. You're really confident in pretty much most things. You can handle most emergencies, you know, ash cloud, all that kind of thing. But this is a whole new ball game, and it's like really trying to learn new things that you've never had to learn before. So
it really interesting to hear it. And, you know, it sounds like the relationship you have with your clients paid out because you're able to then share that information as you're going through this together. And, you know, we had a little chat before of some like wacky moments that you've, not the act, we're not having that story again, some wacky moments where you've just been basically, let's be honest, at that moment in time, going through, as you said, the best to the best of your knowledge in that moment in time. Was there any like, I can't believe we've just pulled that off, because, you know, you've had business all the way through?
I mean, I've not had any of those moments where I've literally on the, you know, the final minute managed to salvage something, but I mean, it's quite often I get travellers contact me and say, you know, we're heading to the US, we're waiting for our approval to kick in, and they get to the point where they're on the way to the airport, and they message me and say, we've just got our approval. Great! You got your vaccine status? Oh, I've not taken my test. And you're like, right, you're heading to Heathrow, T5. As you enter, there's a testing centre right there. I'm going to book you an appointment for 45 minutes. Will you make it? You know, so there's a lot more of that we never had to worry about previously.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, I go back to my retail days when I started. People say, well, do you need vaccinations? And we just go see a health professional for that.
Yeah.
And that was our sort of, you know, I'm not going to say get out jail free card, because we need to know about yellow fever or dengue or any of that sort of stuff.
We're not experts in that field.
We're not medical experts, but now we're having to sort of say, you need a test, go get tested. This is where you can go. That phone call on a Sunday saying, can you get a PCR test couriered to my boss's house? I don't know, can I? Yeah, I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot more things like that.
Yeah, brilliant.
And to be honest, you say, you know, can you think of like, actually, I would say in the last 18 months, there's been too many. There literally has been too many. Over the years of being in business, you can remember like your ash cloud. I can still remember who I was trying to get from where to when that happened. And I can remember it really clearly, and all the other instances we've had over the years, the BA crash and blah, 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 blah. But the last 18 months, do you know what? I almost, there's many things I can't remember because there's been so many. There's been tons. And, each week there's something. And, we'll say, oh my God, can you remember we actually did that? Yeah, I can't remember because I'm working on this now. And it is that much, problems that you're having to solve now so regularly, with people arriving and they haven't got one thing or another, or like I had a guy stuck in France. He'd gone on a ferry and he hadn't got his test, and I'm trying to ring chemists in Caen. Have you got any tests available for today? No, we haven't. And I'm like, oh God. And, you're trying to navigate through a little French town, other chemists. And it's like, I've never done that, ever.
Yeah.
And so it's tons of stuff, really, to be honest. And you can never imagine that we were going to be in this world.
Yeah.
But I think 6 months ago or 2 years ago, we would have never have wanted to get involved in that.
No.
Whereas when a client calls us and says, I'm in so-and-so and I'm stranded or I've got a problem, can you help? You'd be like, I deal with the travel aspects.
Yeah.
But now we're having to be more than just travel consultants, travel advisors. Anytime they're out of their house, you want to make sure that they're getting from point A back to point B safely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think there's really what we wanted to try and have the chat today about is that's all great learnings. And you've obviously kept your businesses and their businesses moving over this time. There's been, I think the key word there is navigation, right? And communication, explaining it. Things appear to be getting easier, but they're definitely not, it's not extremely clear. And you guys are living and breathing this every day. Have you got a sense that it's getting less complicated, really? Or is it still as complicated?
I would say it's more complicated. Would you, in a way?
It's teetering, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to go one of two ways.
There's some things that are a little bit less complicated because you've got a bit more knowledge and you feel a little bit more secure in the way you've understood things, and there's a few more repeat things coming through, isn't there? But then on the other foot, there are things that I would say are actually more complicated than it was this time last year, because the rules and the restrictions are more complicated. And like you said, you've got vaccinated, unvaccinated, and that varies. And then, it poses other issues. So it's a mix. It's a balance of both, I would say, to be fair.
I think I've given more of myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I get messages at 2:00 in the morning and things like that now where I never used to, and I didn't really want them.
Yeah.
Even though I wanted to offer that service, because I understand the situation, I want to be there for my travellers. So if I get that WhatsApp at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's because my travellers go into the airport. So I want to make sure I reply.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to weed them off that service, where they feel they can WhatsApp me at 5 a.m. in the morning. But that's just kind of what it is we do. And, we talked about this the other day where for us, it's just another day. Like it really is. And we sit down at that desk and we just work, and we start at whatever time and we finish at some point.
Fixing all those puzzles.
And, and we generally get to eat and drink and see our families in amongst all that.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have such admiration for what you guys do, and hopefully you can see the passion and understanding of what you do for your businesses and for your clients. And you think that, it's a complex puzzle, right? And not everybody sits in the seats and the roles that you do within this big industry that's obviously here today. All the positive news that's coming out around, large markets and opening, and obviously we had really positive announcements last week. So as we sort of move, the rest of us get moving, if we've not been in industries that have been mobile, what would you like to really, I guess, pass on both to organisations that are planning to get back out, but also other fellow industry professionals and colleagues? Let's maybe start with the organisations that if you're there saying, right, I've got to start moving again, what would be big learnings for them to pass on from the other side?
I think the biggest thing for me is it's a big communication piece. It really is. And it's getting those people back in the pivotal roles that really enable their travellers to travel. So whether that's the reception team that actually books the travel for them. Because a lot of the time when we're dealing with people, we're not dealing with the traveller, we're dealing with a PA, an EA, a reception, a travel booker. But those people have been the people that haven't been there because, they're not the ones signing the contracts at the end of the day. So it's getting those people back in so we can work with them and make sure they're as educated as we are and educated as they can be on what they need to do to get their travellers travelling. So whether that's the quickest place to get an antigen test, whether that's that's the shortest line in the airport, whether that's paying that extra for that speedy boarding, and just sort of working with them to tweak that travel process. So it's not the same as it was 2 years ago, and they can't really expect it to be the same as it was 2 years. No. Otherwise, they're just going to have a terrible user experience when they travel.
And also to allow more time. Allow more time for things, organisation in the office, and more time organisation the actual traveller, and that's actually travelling and whilst you're there. There's a lot of clients who will be like, they just want to get there and get back as quick as possible. They might even go for a day or just an overnight, but I think sometimes you've got to think a little bit more sensibly here and think of that travel and say, well, actually, rather than get that 6 o'clock in the morning flight back, I think maybe we'll get a slightly later one. It might eat into working day a bit more, but it allows a bit more time at the airport if something happens with testing that's and that kind of thing. And again, like you said, re-educating in what they need to take with them, how being equipped, for the travellers. You need to not so much now have everything on a mobile device. You're best to try and print everything off, which is going backwards in a way, but it's much easier because people don't want to touch devices and things like that. So if you have stuff that's printed, print it twice. So you've got double copies of your vaccination passports, any health certificates or health declaration forms that you need, things like that, and making sure that you've got all that to hand. Making sure you've got a mask, making sure you've got an FFP mask, because some airlines insist on you wearing an FFP mask. You might not have to wear it, but if you've got it in your pocket, you've got everything you need. So it's re-educating even the admin-y people and the travellers on a different way of travel. It's not just about the way it's booked. It's not just the way we look after them. It's the way they physically have to travel as well now. And so, allowing a bit more time with that.
Absolutely. I think that's really, for some of us, we haven't done it yet.
No.
And some people have, and we've had there's a big sentiment of it's coming, but making sure people are prepared and feeling reassured. And I think, people who either working like yourselves, are running your own business, or people are working in other TMCs across the market, just ensuring we're passing that invaluable knowledge on and making people feel comfortable. That's what I've picked up. But this extra time doesn't sound very sustainable, unfortunately.
I know.
But,
it isn't
sounds
really.
Like that's, at the moment, that seems like
it is.
Really helpful.
I mean, we see so many horror stories of people just losing mobile phones. So you lose your mobile phone, there's your vaccination status, that's your test results, it's everything gone. But if you've got the paper backups, we went to Portugal, there's a family of, I think there was 8 of us travelling, and we had, over 100 bits of paper. I know,
time, right?
It really is, and it's a pain, but
at the moment that's the right solution.
It's what we needed to do.
Okay, interesting. So are we nervous or excited about the next?
A bit of both.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, I'm not nervous in a bad way. I'm apprehensive, perhaps, because you want to get your business back on track and you want to be back how you were pre-COVID. So maybe the nerves and apprehension is about that, and that's more of a personal perspective rather than a client perspective. I want to be back where I was before because, I had plans. I, wanted to redo my kitchen and all that sort of stuff, and I want to be back stable again and know that your future is stable for my family. But I think as far as clients are concerned, I think, it's very positive. I think, this last few months have really seen a key change in people's attitude. I think the UK in particular, the way we've sort of been able to sort of get back to normal as much as possible, in our personal lives has made a big difference to people in their work lives. Getting back to the office, getting back to doing things that were pre-COVID in a safer environment, in a safer way. And it's just trying to think of a different way to follow that through. And I think everybody's itching to get the new normal back, and to be in that vein where you can just be human again and live our lives where you work, you spend time with your kids, your family, and you feel you feel like you're challenged and you feel like you're producing something good again.
Yeah.
You know, I think the last 18 months, everyone's just felt so miserable and stuck in a rut and not knowing what's going to happen and thinking, oh my God, this is the end of life as we know it. Which it was to a degree.
We didn't use the axe, Catherine, so it's okay.
Yeah, but you know, I think...
And your clients, you know, obviously are returning, well, even more so. And how about you, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% excited. I've got no apprehension.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go, get it done. No, I'm really excited what the future holds. I think it's amazing to see people can actually get back to doing what it is they need to do. And while we're on the corporate side, we might not be sending people on dream vacations. We might be sending them to Hull or places like that.
Or Antigua.
Or Antigua, yeah. I mean, most of the time we're sending people to where they need to get their job done, but that's really important.
It is.
Yeah.
Because that's one cog that turns. And, you know, when you sort of break it down, the kids go back to school, which means we can get back to work, which means people can start traveling again. So for me, I'm 100% excited that the next 12 months, we have a nice, clean, and easier run.
I'll let his excitement rub off onto me.
Cool. We'll let that flow.
Yeah.
Great. You know, I just want to say thank you, really. Thank you for sharing your stories. Obviously, we chat all the time.
We do.
It's great to hear, one, your passion, two, that invaluable knowledge, and also it's okay to reflect, but we've now got to move forward, right? And you know, I'm sure I will speak on behalf of your clients to say thank you for getting them through, and also for helping, you know, pass that knowledge on. So that's all it is from us today. But thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your show.